Hello and welcome to Connect and Collaborate. I'm Alex Hopkins, your on-air producer, and I'm very excited to start today's show. I have a very special guest in studio with me, Mayor Michael Hancock. How are you doing?
Alex, I'm doing well after a long weekend.
Yes.
It felt good.
Yes, I know. That's the 4th of July. It was
Yes.
beautiful. It only rained a little bit in
Are you
Colorado.
kidding? They shut down the 4th of July concert near my home because of the rain. And
Oh, no.
the afternoon weather, typical Colorado, right? This time of
Right?
year.
Every year.
But I love it. I love Colorado. There's no better place. I mean this sincerely, to live in during the spring and summer than Denver, Colorado.
You know what? I absolutely agree with you. I
Yeah.
moved here about 9 years ago, and
Yeah.
I have not looked back.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful place
No
to be.
humidity or very little humidity, and just to me, it's the right temperature, just perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the afternoon rain is kind of nice.
I take it.
It's been 90 degrees, and so it cools down
Cool
a
it
little
off.
bit.
Cool it off a little bit, yes.
I love it. Well, one thing that you may or may not remember is that so you have been on before. I know you remember
Yes.
that. You mentioned that. We talked NAFTA last
Right.
time you were here. You also were my very first interview when I started taking over as full-time host.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so
Oh, wow.
I really appreciate
Get a
it's
little
been
history.
a year. Yeah, exactly. And it's exciting stuff. You haven't even been inaugurated yet, but you have officially been reelected.
Yes, to a third term.
Yes.
Yeah, so we get a chance to continue the work on behalf of this great city of ours, on behalf of the people, and carrying forth really the commitment of keeping this city really as one of the top cities not only in the United States, but in the world. And that's exciting. We have a lot of work to do, a lot of issues to address, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I am too. One of those things you talked about us being a world city. I've had Jerry Tanyano a few times on from the Denver Sustainability Office.
Yes.
One of my favorite projects that you've got going on. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that if you don't mind.
No.
I know we are award winners as far as sustainability is concerned.
Yeah, we're doing a lot in the area of sustainability. And here's the reality and how I look at it. We're working to combat really one of the greatest tragedies of our human existence, right? And that is climate change. And we understand the sense of urgency. We understand the need for us in Denver to do our part to reduce our carbon emissions, to improve our air, to improve our water, and the quality of life for all of us, quite frankly, and to make sure that we are independent of the resources that, quite frankly, cause us other extenuating challenges in terms of our health and well-being. So we're focused on sustainability in almost everything that we do, whether it's our Energize Denver program that's reducing our reliance, our use of electricity, and creating better benchmarks around our buildings and become more sustainable there. How do we improve our recycling and our composting so that we're not sending so much to our landfill, but getting smarter about that, and we all have a responsibility to play a role in that. But it also goes to issues of equity, right? Housing, access to good nutrition, healthier food, where we still have food deserts in this city, people who have access to parks. So if you think about what we're doing in Denver, everything we're doing is built around the penumbra or the umbrella of really sustainability, and making sure that we all live healthier, better lives. But sometimes it's things that you don't even think about. It's not just about cars and buildings. It's about access to parks, about planting more trees. It's all those things.
Absolutely. Well, and speaking of sustainability, one of the exciting things that I just saw, this just came out, we are looking at an expansion on Pena Boulevard.
Yes.
Yes.
We are. Fortunately for us, Denver International Airport has never had a down year in terms of passengers. Even in the recession, we continued to kind of incrementally grow in terms of the number of passengers coming through Denver National Airport. It is, without question, a destination airport, and people don't mind flying through, coming into Denver. And the reality is we're going to be growing to 100 million people going in and out of the airport. And while we would hope and pray that everybody would take the train in and out of the airport, they're not. And or they're carpooling or they're using other forms. But the reality is that we've got to make sure that people can safely traverse Pena Boulevard right now. And so we have to grow the ability to handle greater capacity. We're at 64 million passengers right now. We are ahead of forecast in terms of the number of people going in and out of the airport.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah.
I like hearing that. I worked out at the airport for 8 years myself. I was a flight attendant, so that commute, definitely I would have to leave a little earlier some days to fight that commute.
Well, let me tell you something that's powerful about why
Yeah.
we're doing this, Alex, because most people don't realize Denver National Airport was, when it was built and conceived and built, it was imagined as a pass-through airport. So people would be connecting. They wouldn't be coming into the city.
Yeah.
Most of the people, the 64 million, O&D, which are original destination folks. So they're leaving from Denver and they're coming back to Denver. So people say, why are you expanding there? People just pass through. No, we're actually where people are starting their trips and where people are ending their trips. So it's important that we make sure we have capacity on Pena Boulevard.
Oh, yeah. And we more and more international cities are booking our destination or flights with us. So
yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the last 4 years that you had. But before I do that, were you nervous about this election by any means? This is your third term, so that you will be finishing out your career as mayor. Were you nervous? Do you get nervous for every election?
Every election you should get nervous. I mean, you just don't know what to expect. And obviously this election took on a whole new direction that I would have, hope and pray that it would never go. But nervous in the sense that I thought I would lose, no. I never, if it was God's will that I'd be doing something else and that's where we were going to go. But I never once really believed that I was not going to win the election.
Awesome.
Not one time. But you do get nervous because you just don't know where you're going to go with it, how it's going to turn out. And whenever you have that, you're going through a test. I mean, this was a job evaluation for me. It was a job interview for the other candidates, but it was an evaluation for me. And I'm thankful that the people never felt that I was doing a good enough job to return to the job.
Yes, absolutely. And you're also under new leadership, too. We just had a new election in 2018, Governor Polis.
Yes.
So let's talk about your tenure, your last 4 years, how the new leadership has impacted your governance, and then we'll look at the next 4.
Well, the reality is that, let's start with Governor Polis. The state is a tremendous partner for the city of Denver.
Yes.
Denver is the economic driver of the state. As Denver goes, so goes the state of Colorado. So it's very important that I continue to have a good relationship with the governor's office. I had a great relationship with Governor Hickenlooper, working relationship, and I believe we're going to have a very good relationship with Governor Polis. We are developing that relationship, getting to know each other, and we'll spend some time shortly, I'm sure, to sit down and say, okay, here's what Denver's focused on. We need to know what the state's focused on. Let's make sure we're marrying where we have good alignment and good synergies, and that we do well for the people of Colorado and the people of Denver. So I expect, I've known Governor Polis for a while, but I expect that our working relationship is going to grow and get even stronger. The last 4 years have been just, just like the first 4, the last 4, been amazing. We saw this city do some amazing things. We saw Denver really take its rightful place on that stage of being globally competitive and globally connected. And I mean that on a lot of fronts in terms of sustainability that you mentioned, economic development, economic strength, job creation, job attraction, in terms of really taking the lead on things like transportation and really standing up for immigrants and refugees and firmly standing strong on LGBTQ plus issues. Those are the things that I'm very, very proud of. I'm proud that we turned the economy around in Denver.
Yeah.
And we got people back to work, and we got jobs here, and we got companies that have moved in, and really a good feeling about Denver around the world right now. So it was an amazing. I mean, it was, there are always those pitfalls or challenges that occurred, both professionally and personally. But I can tell you at the end of the day, I look back overall, I'm generally pleased with where we are, and obviously the people felt the same way.
Yes, I too am pleased with where we are. You and I were talking a little bit off air before we started here about you can't be a successful person without having a few failures along
absolutely.
the way, right?
Yeah.
So personally speaking, either something that you've seen go on through your through being mayor or a personal failure, I would love to hear from you how you bounce back from that.
Well, actually, I mean, obviously, I think every challenge that you run into, whether it's personally or professionally, is an opportunity to get better, get stronger. And if you can't learn from it, then there's a real problem. And when I went through the personal travails about a year ago in terms of the texting, the revelation that I shared inappropriate text with a Denver police detective who was protecting me and my family, that was, I guess, as great a test as I have ever had. And I often tell my children, had told my children as they grew up, is that you will be judged as much by how you respond to the challenges as you do the challenge that is being presented to you. And that was something that believed that, my faith teaches me you acknowledge you made a mistake. You ask for forgiveness. You apologize for the mistake that you've made if you've hurt other people. And then you work on forgiving yourself and getting better and moving on. And, a lot of people are going to want to remind me and remind you when you make a mistake. But the reality is it starts with you. And that's really my philosophy in life, and that's where I am, is I've got to go on and I've got to get better and make sure it doesn't happen again. Professionally, we grew so fast as a city. And I don't think people realize that there's not a city in the country that has grown as fast as Denver, Colorado, the last 10 years. And there are a lot of things that I wish we could have had a better handle on. architectural design, for example. We were further along in terms of investing in our infrastructure, our road infrastructure, for example, that we were further along in capturing land for affordable housing and parks and things of that nature. But we were really, as a city, simply trying to recover when I became mayor. And then the growth popped on us. And I wish I had the words to demonstrate how fast and how dramatic the growth came, because I think people will understand why we are playing catch up on a lot of these issues.
Oh, yeah. But I still think we're doing a fantastic job, despite it being a catch-up, so to speak. I, for one, and I say this a lot on the show, I'm ready for us to be LA. I'm ready for us to be New York City. But I had a guest say to me, we're ready to be Denver.
I was just
Yes.
That's exactly where I was going to go, Allison. Listen, we're going to do Denver in our way. And the thing is that LA, they've had their growth and their overpopulation, and same thing with New York for a long time. And they are just now beginning. Denver, literally in the last decade, has hit its stride in terms of being that place that people want to live and be a part of. And within that decade, 4 or 5 years in is when we said we got to get better. We got to master plan the city, Comp Plan 2040 and Blueprint Denver, and our transportation strategy and our parks plan, game plan rather, around our parks. All that is about how do we manage who we are today going forward. And so I'm grateful that we had the wisdom to say, move now, get ready, plan, invest for the Denver that you are today.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Denver. We've had a lot of issues come on here, people talking about issues. One of those was Initiative 300.
Yes.
And it was posed as the right to survive, which I feel like is a terrible light to put that in. Personally, I think it was more of a land use issue than anything else. But to reiterate, that Initiative 300 was making sure that open spaces didn't have campers on it, right?
Yeah.
And essentially homeless people camping in spaces that they shouldn't be in. We were definitely against Initiative 300. It ultimately did not pass. But that being said, we clearly need to have something in place to take care of this homeless population. As you mentioned, we are growing. So inevitably, once you grow as a city, you're attracting more people that aren't in the housing market at all. So let's talk a little bit about some initiatives that we've got underway to help, for lack of a better term, try to clean up spaces and make sure everyone has a place to go.
Yeah, I'm glad the people of Denver really saw that, the right to survive or the repeal of the urban camping ban were not the wise decisions for Denver or any urban center, an urban location in the country, and said no. But they weren't saying no to homeless or being, lacking of compassion toward the homeless. They were simply saying that's not okay for anybody. It's not safe. It's not humane. It's not healthy for us to be doing that. And so I'm glad they did that. Listen, I just returned from the U.S. Conference of Mayors meeting. And, I'm talking with groups of mayors, and we all talked about the urban camping, and many cities are moving toward urban camping bans because they also see the same inhumane exercise. And we talked about cities that have done this, where they allowed for urban camping to occur. And no one could mention a city where it went well. And so it's gone bad. I mean, mayors have lost their jobs, city councils have been, and I reminded people about the Portland exercise, our experiment, where I remember when the mayor, who I knew, Mayor Hales, implemented urban camping, allowed for a certain designated area. And he thought he had controls, and he thought he had good governance of it. 3 months after they decided they had to break him up, and Mayor Hales was not voted off us, but he decided he couldn't run again and be reelected. 3 months after they began to clean them up, I went to Portland for another purpose, and I still saw the workers in hazmat uniforms cleaning up the sites. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about. I mean, it's an exponential, not a good decision. So here's the reality. There was a positive that came out of that exercise in terms of proposing 300, and that is that the philanthropic and private sectors realize we need to do more. The city of Denver cannot and should not be expected to respond to this by itself.
Right.
We've got to lean in. Literally within a matter of days, we raised close to $16 million to extend the hours of shelters, day shelters in the city of Denver, to do bridge housing and vouchers, to increase the number of bridge housing vouchers in the city of Denver. Because the philanthropic private sector community leaned in and said, it's time for us to do better.
Yeah.
And we're going to do better. And they said to me very clearly, Mayor, we are here to be your partner to help you do this and to help our homeless, our neighbors, do better. And so they're going to lean in. And that's the thing, is we're going to cultivate that. We're going to expand it and continue to do right by our homeless. And that is get to the root causes, help with the issues of mental health, help with the issues of drug and alcohol addiction, help with familial disassociation, whatever is necessary to get people on a more stable life pathway in their lives.
I love hearing that.
Yeah.
I also want to talk to you about a few more our favorite key initiatives that we like to work on, one of those being trade. As I mentioned, you were here to talk NAFTA. This was pre-USMCA, so we know we've got a lot to work on here. Trade specifically in Denver. Talk to me about that.
We focus a lot on trade. I mean, I was in a conversation with a friend yesterday who came to the house, and we were talking about a lot of stuff, and he says, why was it such an important focus of yours to become to be more globally connected? And I said, listen, this is a global economy, and we're trading. We're not only trading, tangible items, but we're trading intellectual items as well across the waters. And we got to be recognized as that one of those places that people can move products and intellectual capital, conveniently and affordably from Denver. And it's our economy. It's the new world order, and if you will, it's a global economy. And so, and trade is very, very important. Give me an example. Today, Denver has a $937 million bond effort that will take us over 10 years. If we continue to put tariffs on our trading partners like China and Canada or Mexico and South America, what we're talking about is increasing the cost exponentially of that bond. We won't be able to do as much as we had planned to do with $937 million. And so the reality is that we got to be strategically smart about how we handle our partners, who we decide to put tariffs on, and who we decide to obliterate trading agreements like NAFTA without strategically saying, here's what we are proposing, as opposed to just, like I like to say, nasty talk or bully talk. You're going to do it or else sort of conversation. That doesn't help anyone, and it reaches as to the crests or the corners of our nation, like places like Denver, Colorado, where all of a sudden it takes us, instead of $10 million to build a building, it's going to cost us $17 million to build that building.
Exactly. I appreciate your opinion on that and your outlook on that. Immigration, also a big deal. So Colorado Compact is a new entity that is here in Denver. We partnered with the New American Economy. Colorado Business Roundtable is part of that. We just did a fireside chat at MSU with Vicente Fox, the former president of Mexico.
Vicente,
it was a great event.
One of my favorite people.
Yes, one of my favorite people too. He's very candid.
He's a character.
He won't hesitate to tell you how he feels.
No.
Wonderful person, but we talked immigration with him and other issues with Mexico and U.S., right? Because inevitably, when you have two bodies that live together, you're going to have some conflicts here and there. Absolutely. But I want to talk to you about immigration and kind of what Denver is looking at as far as improving policies, anything along those lines.
We are very limited in what we can do. Obviously, we've done some things in terms of set our policies on how we communicate about our immigrants in Denver, really drawing some boundaries in terms of what our employees can do, in terms of sharing information about who is, even not even sharing, but asking if you're an immigrant or citizen. We forbid it and do not allow it unless it's absolutely expressly required by federal law that we collect that data. So we don't even ask the question. And so we train our employees and we set that up. The other one is the Legal Defense Fund that we helped set up, and we raised close to $400,000 last time we did it. We're getting ready to do another reiteration of it, and really going to send a clarion call to have folks in our community step up a little more and say that in order to sustain this fund, we got to have the private and philanthropic communities really engage, and individuals engage in helping to sustain this fund. So we're going to stay at it, but we're limited in what we do. But I guess the greatest bully pulpit we have is for the mayor to stand up and say, this is unacceptable. Find a sensible policy of it for immigration in this nation and a pathway to citizenship. Treat people humanely, not in cages. That's just not who we are as America, particularly taking children away from families or unnecessarily separating families, not just at the border, but in Denver, Colorado, where you're deporting people for minor infractions. Those are things that as Americans, as a human being, I want us to get better at as a country. And that takes leadership from the White House to Capitol Hill. And I'm going to use that bully pulpit as every chance I get to say we got to do this and do it right now.
Yeah, and we do. We absolutely do. We've got a few minutes left here. I have many questions that I want to ask you, so I'm going to have to pare down what I want to talk about.
I'll be quick.
Yes, wonderful. Decriminalizing mushrooms. That was another one that passed. I Where's this going?
Who knows? And I think that's the caution for us as a city and as a state, and that is to be mindful of, you don't want to become that city. You don't want to become that state.
Yeah.
That where you can pioneer these type of policies everywhere. We got to be more thoughtful. And I think some of the challenges are some of the new strategies about who can get what on the ballot and how they do it is going to be helpful with that situation. But we got to be careful as a city.
Yes, 100%. Also want to talk to you about your parks and open spaces sales tax and also your game plan for a healthy city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sales tax that was implemented quite frankly, in November by the people of Denver, passed overwhelmingly. It's going to be a huge tool to help us really attain our goal, which is to have a park within a 10-minute walk of every resident of Denver. We are 86% of the way there and growing. Yeah. And so that's going to help us do that, but it's going to do us another thing. It's going to help us to maintain the inventory that we have. So we can all be very proud of the parks in our city, reclaim some of our great rivers and in Denver, including the South Platte and creeks that we have here, build more trails in our parks so people can walk and bike, so we can maintain our active lifestyle in Denver, which is, makes us one of the number one cities, if not the number one city in the country for fitness and healthy lifestyle.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's I don't think that we get to hear a lot of big city plans for parks, right? So it's exciting stuff that we've got going on. I also want to talk to you about the inauguration that is happening on Monday. So tell me about that.
Yeah.
It will officially be your third inauguration.
Yes.
Yes. So it's profound moments. Are you going to have fireworks, large American flags? Tell me about it.
No, we're going to do something different. It's the first time we're going to hold it in front of City Hall.
Oh.
It's typically held somewhere else around the city, like the Sewell Ballroom or the Opera House or Civic. We're going to be in front of City Hall, so I'm pretty excited about it. Teresa Marchetta, who is listening to us right now, had a great idea to try to do that. So I'm looking forward to what that's going to be like. And that will start at 10 o'clock on Monday, July the 15th, in front of City Hall. It's open to the public. We encourage folks to come early, and I'm gonna make an address, but we swear in all of the newly elected and re-elected officials of the city of Denver. At 6 o'clock at the Botanic Gardens, we will have our community celebration. We have a great headliner coming, and I'm pretty excited about it. It's Babyface, Grammy Award-winning singer, songwriter Babyface will be headlining the Botanic Gardens event, and we want to invite again the public. Come on out and check out Babyface.
Yes,
one of the great performers of our time.
Yes. Would you say that's a personal favorite for you?
He is one of my favorite because, Babyface is someone I've listened to for a long time, and actually I can hear other artists. People don't realize how much he has written for other artists. When they're singing, I can go, Babyface wrote that song. I can tell you Babyface wrote that song, and so I'm excited about seeing Babyface.
Have you ever thought about being on the new game show Beat Shazam?
I've seen it. I've thought about it. I'm not that good. My wife would kill it. I couldn't do it.
All right. Maybe I'll take her on there with me.
Yeah, you go.
I would love to go.
Yeah. It's a great show, though.
Fantastic. So in these last couple minutes here, I want to ask you, you know that we have a 2020 presidential election coming up. Just from the few times that we've interacted together, I know that you're not a huge fan of Trump's policies and the way he leads. And
it's a lot worse than that. I'm not a huge fan of pimples or diarrhea. Donald Trump's a whole different story. he's beyond that. I'm just being real with you. We have an absolute idiot in the White House right now, and I don't think there's a greater threat to America right now than Donald Trump. And so I've decided not to be bashful about that anymore. It's time for America to recognize this man is doing irreparable harm to this country, and not only internally with the divisiveness that has occurred. We've seen a 200+% in terms of hate crimes occurring in this country, hate-motivated crimes in this country, but not only that, our global reputation as a country. You saw what the ambassador, or the UN ambassador to London, or from London, said about him.
Yeah.
That's what's being said around the world. He had the courage to put it in writing and share it with the leadership. Here's what's going on. But that's the way we're being seen around the world, and that's not okay.
That is not okay. That being said, are you behind anyone for 2020 yet?
Right now, I'm supporting, our Colorado people, Hickenlooper Bennett, and we're going to watch how this thing evolves. But I don't think there's a more important election in our lifetime than this presidential election. We cannot reelect this man.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yes, I appreciate your time. Denver Mayor Michael Hancock, it has been a pleasure having you in. If you would like to get in touch with him, please email him at milehighmayor@denvergov.org. You can find more information about the show in the description below. Be sure to like and subscribe our YouTube page while you're here. Find this podcast more at cobrt.com/radio-podcast. And check out Denver stuff. We got a lot going on in the city.
A lot going on.
Yes, very excited to have the next 4 years with you.
Thank you, Alex, and I'll come back if you'll have me back.
Absolutely.
All right.
Have a wonderful day.